what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, because all we do here is college football and some college basketball videos every single day. And I'm actually really excited about a Patreon page because we just cleared one major hurdle when it comes to StreamYard, so we will be able to do some more live shows for Patreons and exclusive videos just for Patreons. And we'll even invite you on camera in our little live stream, so you can actually join Golden Blue Dude and talk to me face to face. And if there's ever a live show that you do not want to miss, it is Monday evening, 7 p.m. I will have Dale Wolfley, and we're going to talk about what I'm talking about in this video: NIL, transfer portal, what's going on at West Virginia, and we're going to take some phone calls. So don't miss the live show on Monday evening. Probably going to be the best one we've had so far. But right now, I want to talk about something that's really been bugging me. Well, really a combination of two things: the NIL and the transfer portal. And guys, this is not going away. So there's no use at complaining about it. Oh, this is ruining college football. I wish it would go away. It's not going away. So complaining about it is not going to do anything about it. But what we need to do is try to figure out ways that'll fix it. But one thing that really made me raise my eyebrows is I saw something on ESPN today about the NCAA itself. President Mark Emmert, he said this: there's an enormous amount of misunderstanding about what the NCAA is. People speak of the NCAA as if it's some monolithic entity. It's not. It's 1,100 schools that come together and make decisions in a collaborative representative democracy. Huh? What? So, wait, are you saying there's really not an NCAA? That it's just decisions based on every school and they give their input? Maybe you take a vote? I don't know what the exact system is, but that's basically what you're explaining it. To be honest with you, that explains a lot of things, okay? That explains why there's no universal rule with the transfer portal. There's no universal rule with the NIL, because people just put out ideas, it gets voted on and gets passed. I thought the NCAA was actually a body of people that made rules and consequences and enforced those consequences. Take, for example, the Kansas investigation. So to my understanding, if what he's saying is correct, if they find Kansas guilty of whatever they're investigating them for, then everybody decides the penalty that Kansas will have, but they can't fire Kansas head coach Bill Self. In fact, Kansas has extended his contract to a lifetime contract. Bill Self can be the head coach at Kansas for as long as he wants. And the NCAA can't do anything about it, because the NCAA is basically every school that decides together what's going to happen, the new rules, the consequences if you break those rules, blah, 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 blah. We also have a great website that was created by Joey Foster and our head writer, Michael Walker. 8 writers all together. Go check it out when you get a chance. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because he explained that there's 30 or more states with different NIL legislation, and he's encouraging Senate, Congress to make rules nationally, because the NCAA can't do it because they themselves don't really have authority. Because according to him, the NCAA is just the schools. He just represents the schools. Hey, I don't make the rules. I don't make the consequences. I don't make the penalties. I just do what I'm told from the schools. That's literally what he just said. So in order for college football to avoid ending like the NFL, the NCAA needs to be a real thing. Whether it stays the NCAA or turns into a different name, I don't really care. But it needs to be a real body that has real power over these schools. Real consequences, real rules, real consequences to those rules, and real penalties with those consequences. Otherwise, you know, whoever has the most money gets to do whatever they want to do. Golden Blue Dude also has a nice merchandise store. Pretty much anything you can think of. So go check that out if you get a chance. Patrons get a special discount at the merchandise store. I mean, even with this NIL thing, I've said it multiple times. They have to put a cap on the universities. I'm not saying put a cap on the individuals, because yes, that would be putting a cap on capitalism. You can't do that. This is America. But what you can do is, like the NFL, even though we're trying to not be like the NFL, they do have some nice rules over there. Put a cap on the universities themselves on how much they can pay these athletes. That is the only way, and I mean the only way, that it can even resemble an even playing field. And some of those schools might not be able to reach the cap, but at least with the other schools that can reach the cap and beyond, you're at least, you know, stopping them from going beyond and giving the other schools to at least try to catch up with them, to at least try to match that. Because this is turning into a bidding war. The athletes are going to go wherever they're going to be paid the most, and you can't blame the athletes. That's the thing, guys. Everybody that's mad at the athletes, you're mad at the wrong people. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They are going after the opportunities that presents itself with the most opportunity, the most monetization, the most capitalism. So you cannot get mad at the athletes. You have to be mad at the system and the universities that are trying to manipulate the system. And it's really not that difficult to manipulate if you think about it, because is there even really a system? And I looked in this article by ESPN, and apparently there are consequences to tampering. And by tampering, I mean you're not allowed to contact an athlete until they enter the transfer portal. That's a biggie. But what are those consequences? And how do you prove that there's tampering? I mean, do you have to check their social media every day? Do you have to tap into their phones? I mean, what all entails on actually proving that there was tampering? And this goes back to my other point. That's why there needs to be an actual body that has that responsibility. According to Mark Emmert, the NCAA is just a representation of what the schools want. So they don't really have an organization or a body of people that can actually sit down and monitor the situation, figure out if rules are being broken or not, and if those rules are being broken, what the consequences are going to be. Because apparently, the body of schools determine the rules, they determine the consequences, and they determine the penalties. But whenever it comes to a coach themselves, the school still has ultimate power, and that's why Bill Self is not going to be fired by Kansas, even if they are found guilty of whatever it is they're being investigated for. That's still on Kansas. So that's the biggest problem in college football right now. There's really no head authority or authority figure that can really do anything when somebody does break the rules. And it kind of makes me realize that what I've been thinking this whole time is wrong. The NCAA isn't this organization that, oh, they did right, they did wrong, they get penalized. I mean, apparently it's the schools that determine who does right and who does wrong, who gets punished and who doesn't. And, you know, it makes more sense if you think about it now, because the schools that make everybody more money, they'll be more lenient on them. And it will differ from sport to sport depending on the teams that make the money for that particular sport. I think we figured it out. The schools look at the schools that have committed infractions. Do they make money for us? Oh, those are our money makers. We need to take it easy on those guys because we're making money off of them as well. These other guys, nah, they don't make that much money for us. Put the hammer down on them. So, yeah, that actually, you know, it makes sense to me. But it needs to change. You're letting the inmates rule the asylum. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have a say. Of course they should have a say. This is America. It's a democracy. Votes matter. Votes count. But at the same time, you can't let the inmates run the asylum. You have to have an authority figure, an organization that oversees everything, that makes actual rules. Hey, if you break these rules, this is what's going to happen. And when they actually do break it, it actually happens. The penalties actually happen. The consequences are real. Because what I'm seeing is consequences. Oh yeah, these are consequences. But it's still not even real. I mean, it never gets enforced unless everybody agrees on it. It can't be that way. You can't just enforce penalties based on, okay, we all agree on this, right? Because, like I said earlier, if they make everybody a bunch of money, they're going to go easier on them. And if they don't, that's when they'll put the hammer down. So there needs to be an organization that has these rules, that monitors the rules. I mean, there's no organization or authority figure that's out there that can actually monitor the situation. And I know that would have to be extremely elaborate, probably cost some money, but it needs to be done. Otherwise, this is going to get out of control. We're not out of control yet, but we're on the brink of being out of control. And college football is just the face of it. I mean, think of all the other sports that are under the NCAA. Yeah, it can get crazy. So before we get to that point of being out of control, we need to stop right now, figure this out. That's why I think Congress and Senate does need to get involved, and maybe they can actually appoint some people and appoint an organization to be able to oversee all this stuff. Otherwise, we will get out of control, and college football in the future is going to be like, man, what in the heck are we looking at? So they're allowed to do this, but they're not allowed to do that. I know I threw a lot at you right there, but still, leave some comments in the comments section. A lot to unpack here. Let me know what you think in the comments section. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.